was a shot!
How you doing, Met fans, and welcome to the final episode of 2025 of the Terry Collins Show, presented by Tunnel the Towers, supporting America's greatest heroes. Donate just $11 per month by going to t2t.org. That's T, the number 2, t.org. I'm John Arezzi, a busy one today as we wrap up the second season of the show. On today's episode, we'll have highlights and coverage of the Queens Baseball Convention that took place last weekend and featured Terry Collins and Tom Hallion's first ever live face-to-face in front of an audience. So everybody's ass was in the jackpot for that one. It was a great panel with Andy Martino, Terry, Tom, myself. So it was wonderful. And we also got a chance before Tom took the stage for the panel. Terry, Andy, and I discussed this horrific offseason for the Mets, and we get the fans to weigh in as well. And we've also invited Laura Albanese to join the show today. Laura is the official Mets beat writer for Newsday and has been covering the loss of many of the team's most beloved players and the additions they've added. So we'll get to Laura, and we'll get you all caught up on our presenting sponsor, Tunnel to Towers, during this season of hope as well. But let's get right to the leadoff. In what has been one of the most heartbreaking off seasons in Mets history, with the trade of Brandon Nimmo, the loss of both Edwin Diaz and Pete Alonso to free agency, and the question marks that surround this organization as we head into 2026, we wanted to do one last leadoff this year. And who better than to discuss it with than the beat writer for Newsday, the official Mets beat writer for Newsday, and SNY analyst for Baseball Night in New York, and the vice chair for the New York Baseball Writers Association of America, Laura Albanese. Laura, welcome back and happy holidays to you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. And first, before we even begin, I want to thank you for everything you've done this year to contribute to this program. And it's just having you here and just being able to get your insights has been really wonderful for us. So we're very grateful to have your association with us this season. So thank you for that.
I have loved doing that. This has been fantastic. And I have loved talking to TC. I've learned so much from him.
He's such a straight shooter.
Mm-hmm.
And you were at QBC last weekend and you saw Terry and the fans love him. I mean, he's so iconic because they trust him, I think, more than anything else.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that was Terry's MO even when he was a manager, when sometimes it doesn't always help you to be honest and truthful and forthright. But a lot of times he was the guy who's like, hey, this is what's going on and this is why it's happening. And it was so helpful to kind of get that insight. And, now that he's not the manager anymore, he's just continued it. It's part of his personality. And yes, being there at QBC, the Queens Baseball Convention, hearing his insights and seeing all the fans interact with him, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's been there 4 seasons now. He loves going there just to interact with the fans. So you don't find a lot of people, especially who have done what he does, that is so welcoming to the fans and giving his opinion and not blowing smoke up anyone's derriere. He's like, he just gives his opinion, and he's not afraid to do so. So it was great to be a part of that. But the mood of the fans last weekend, as we kind of anticipated going in, and it was not going to be a happy gathering of super hardcore Met fans at this one.
Yeah. I mean, these are people, these are fans that I have because Mets Twitter or Mets X, whatever you want to call it, has been part of the zeitgeist since I have started covering the team. That was way before I was even a beat reporter. So we're talking decades. I've known these people online for decades. This is how diehard these fans are. And to be able to see them and they came out. I was able to put faces to some of the Twitter avatars and everything else. But there was a sense, and understandably so, at very best, a sense of trepidation. Okay, we lost a lot, but maybe there's a plan here. And those were the optimists. And then there were, the kind of in-betweens was we lost a lot.
Right.
And they did not know whether or not, at this point, the trust I feel in David Stearns is very much, well, now you're going to have to show me, you're going to have to prove it, that you can build a team. Because for a lot of these fans, when Brandon Nimmo left, when Pete Alonso left, when Edwin Diaz left, it felt like the heart was gutted out of the team, and understandably so. Like, a lot of these fans, they're millennials. They grew up with these players, and so to see them go, that can be really difficult.
Yeah, for me, and I have to, just say that I was around since, watching this team since the 60s. I mean, when Tom Seaver debuted as a rookie. And the only thing I can compare it to, but it is different in a lot of ways, is when we lost Seaver in 77.
Yeah.
And that was really partially because he asked out, because there was, a New York Daily News columnist named Dick Young who was writing things about Seaver's wife being jealous about Nolan Ryan's wife, and M. Donald Grant, and they were trying to play hardball with Seaver contract wise, and then the personal stuff took over. And then Seaver asked out. He says, "Get me out of here," and they traded him to Cincinnati. But at that point, going back, and I'm always going to not portray myself as like this journalist insider. I'm always going to come to it on the show as I have as a fan. And I remember the day they traded Seaver in 77, and it was a gut punch. It was heart wrenching. It was, how could they do this? The team was already on a decline.
Mm-hmm.
But when they got rid of Seaver, and Kingman, I didn't really care about, because he was a good home run hitter, but he wasn't really adored by the fan base.
Right.
Seaver was. It was the first time and only time I turned my back on the organization. I became a Yankee fan that summer. And that is hard to admit. I was at college. It was in Boston. I lived in, around the corner from Fenway. And all my college buddies were Yankee fans. And Reggie Jackson was always one of my favorite players. So after Seaver went and the Yankees were on this roll, and how star-studded their lineup was, I became a Yankee fan. And I stayed away from Shea Stadium at the time. And I didn't return to the fold until the franchise was sold in 1980.
Wow.
And so for 77, 78, 79, I rooted for the Yankees, which was crazy. And this time, when these players, when Nimmo got traded, that was the shock.
Mm-hmm.
When Diaz was signed by the Dodgers, that was very surprising.
Yeah.
I thought that they would go after him harder, even harder than they did with Pete. And when Pete went, it was inevitable, it seemed, because it'd been building for a couple of years since free agency last year. But when that news came down, it was anger. It was like they did rip the heart out of this team.
Yeah.
So I really found it interesting in your column in Newsday that you talked about the free agents and some of the moves the Mets had made. And here on the website, it says, Albanese, money may talk, but dysfunction screams with the Mets. So I want to start there. I have personally called this offseason the offseason of sadness and uncertainty. In a recent column, you ended the piece writing about what if free agents may shy away from the team for reasons, saying money may talk, but dysfunction screams. So dive into that a little bit with us as far as what possible free agents or other baseball players may think about when thinking about joining the Mets.
It's kind of difficult to tell because, again, I'm not in these back rooms, but all you can do is take what people tell you. Mm-hmm. And, the one thing about the three players that left, Nimmo, Diaz, and Alonso, they all had one thing in common, is that they were fairly forthright in terms of the way that they would communicate, both with the media and with the fans. I mean, when you would talk to Nimmo, you didn't get the sense that he was lying to you. When you talked to Alonso or Diaz, you never got the sense that they were lying to you. So I had made that point in that column where there was one through line in the three things that, all three of these guys said. Brandon Nimmo said he was taken aback when he heard that, the trade talks had progressed to that point. He did not think he was going to get traded. Pete Alonso says that he went to the Orioles. One of the reasons he went to the Orioles is because they gave him this blueprint and the transparency was refreshing. And then Edwin Diaz, he kind of goes back to the idea that, they gave him kind of a plan about what they were going to do, how to win a ring, all these other things. And all this goes back to the idea of front office communication. So as we all know, David Stearns plays things close to the vest, and understandably so. He doesn't want to put all his cards out on the table. But there does have to be a certain level of kind of humanity in your business dealings. And all this kind of like leads to the question, I'm not saying this is definitive or not, but if all these guys are kind of saying the same flavor of thing, you have to ask how much communication was going on between the front office and these players. I mean, even talking to Carlos Mendoza during winter meetings, he said he was really surprised when he got a call from David about Nimmo probably or possibly being dealed. That's your manager. That's the guy who manages these players. So you have to juxtapose the two things, because in the 2024 offseason, obviously the Soto hunt, and there's all this good press surrounding the Mets. And it's not just, hey, Steve Cohen has a gajillion dollars. It's not just that. It's they're good with families. It's a good environment for players. People want to go back. They just got off this like really magical run. Suddenly, Flushing is the place to be. And it seems like this offseason, that is very much less the case, where, people aren't clamoring to go back. They're not clamoring to take maybe a little bit less money. They're not going, hey, you want to know what? If we want to win a ring, we got to go to Flushing. No, if you want to win a ring, you go to the Dodgers or even the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays for a while had all the money in the world. They also have one of the richest owners in the world. Nobody wanted to play in Toronto. And there were tax reasons and all this other like stuff going on with that, but nobody wanted to go there. Suddenly you're in a World Series and you have Max Scherzer saying that this is the most fun he's ever had in his major league career. And people are signing with the Blue Jays. So that really gives you an indication of how much players talk. We've gotten conditioned to believe that, and it's a mostly false narrative. Like players are all about the money. Of course they're about the money. It's their job. They want to support their families. But this is also the rest of their lives. And do you want to take a few extra bucks if you're going to be someplace where you're miserable? I mean, if it was the difference between making $60,000 a year or $62,000 a year, would you go to the place that you really hate or go to the place which you really love? And so you kind of have to put it in that context, because like when you're talking about millions and millions of dollars, it does become a little bit of a monopoly money situation.
Yeah, and players want to be respected, they want to be wanted, and they want to be valued.
Right.
And in these situations, it didn't seem like the Mets cared about any of those things. I mean, Brandon Nimmo, and we'll get to him here. I mean, he, as you said, was taken aback when he got that call from Stearns. He just built a beautiful new home in Port St. Lucie. This was going to be his forever home.
Yes.
He envisioned seeing his number up there in the rafters with the rest of the Mets and being a lifelong Met. But when you get a call from the president of baseball operations and saying, this is going to make our team better by you leaving it, I mean, how do you take that? I mean, how do you even you have a no trade contract and you could stay, but who the heck wants to stay when you're told that?
And frankly, I go back to it. Players are human beings. If someone told me, hey, we want to transfer you somewhere else, you could definitely stay where you are, but honestly, you're just going to hold us back. I don't want to be there. I mean, and people be like, well, Brandon Nimmo chose to trade, there's no trade off. He chose, yeah, but at that point, if I'm not being appreciated, how much of a good environment is that for me? How much am I going to feel valued? Am I going to be looking over my shoulder every 2 seconds? Now, granted, Brandon Nimmo's contract was kind of an onus on the Mets. This contract was not going to age well. I understand why the Mets wanted to make the move that they did. But going back to the humanity of it, this is also the oldest tenured player on the team. Maybe there's a different way to approach this. Yeah. Because he certainly, the way he was speaking, it indicated a person who was a little bit hurt. And by the time, he got to the Rangers, he's back with his old buddy, Jake DeGrom, and he's happy and he's fine because he's somewhere that he was wanted. So if you're treating players, or if players feel like they're not wanted, going back to the Pete Alonso comments when he said that he wasn't going to exercise his player option and he was going to opt out, he's like, I love being a Met. I hope they appreciated me. All this stuff. they all have similar kind of like tones, and you have to wonder why all these players are saying the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And for Pete, obviously he got a 5-year deal. The Mets didn't even make him an offer. So how do you feel valued at all if you don't even receive an offer from the team that you have spent your entire life with and became their home run king this season and everything that he did for the franchise? And so those are the things that, as a fan, I look at and I'm like, this is heartless. This is, it's business. Everyone knows it's a business, and you got to make money. You got to do what's best for the franchise. But in certain situations, I really feel that the ownership didn't really think about, or maybe they did, or don't care, or who knows, what these players meant to these fans. And what I think about is like, do you think that they're prepared for the backlash that they've already gotten? And I have to go back to Seaver, because I remember when Seaver was traded, that attendance dipped the following year, 25%, 30%. And by 1979, they only drew 700,000 people to Shea Stadium.
Yeah.
The place was empty every game. So do they know? Winning, of course, is always a good remedy. But I don't know if they really are prepared for what this boiling pot of fan displeasure may rear its head in 2026, depending on what they do the rest of this offseason.
That's the thing. Like, I'm not 100% sure, because it's kind of twofold. One, it depends what, like you said, what they do the rest of this offseason. If they get like a Tariq Skubal, if they get maybe like a Cody Bellinger or Kyle Tucker, if David Stearns can get people behind, because look, he bet on himself, and I do respect that a lot. Yeah. He said, hey, I can build this team from the studs up. I can make this team better. And I don't mind if I'm hated for it. You kind of want someone in that position, a little bit cold-blooded, who's able to say, it doesn't matter what you guys say about me, because I'm going to build a winner. If you're successful. If you're unsuccessful, then you just become a Batman villain. And that just doesn't work. So that's the one thing. If he somehow builds a team that is promising, people are going to show up. People want to watch baseball. Mets fans want the Mets to do well. The other aspect is, I do feel baseball fans have gotten a little bit more cynical since the time of the Seaver trade, in which, where the idea of baseball is a business, we're rooting for laundry, all this other stuff suddenly isn't as like a dirty word or a dirty phrase as it used to be. That can be a little bit heartbreaking, but it's also the reality born from how the sport has kind of developed essentially since the work stoppage in 1994, where it's just like, okay, well, obviously this is about making money and it's not about our feelings. And, the people who came back after that kind of had the rose tinted glasses ripped right off their faces. And now they understand the name of the game a little bit more. So I don't know how much of an effect it's going to have. It might have some. I know that owner Steve Cohen has said many times before he does not like it when Citi Field is empty. Why would he like it? And it's up to Stearns to make sure that his boss is pleased in July, because people are coming because the Mets are winning.
Mm-hmm. Do you think Steve Cohen should have maybe addressed the fans at this point, or David, or is it kind of like, let's wait and see what happens the rest of this offseason? Because Cohen has that persona, and the fans kind of, were so enamored with him as Uncle Stevie and, the savior of the Mets and all of the things, the wonderful things that he did when he came in to purchase the franchise, and how Citi Field turned into such a wonderful atmosphere. But it's been radio silent, other than, I guess, a text he sent to John Heyman of the Post. But he hasn't addressed the fan base. And David Stearns, couldn't comment on losing Diaz and Alonso. But they haven't really sat down and said, all right, fans, this is to just kind of comment or say things are going to be okay. That hasn't happened yet. And that surprised me so far.
It might surprise me, but I'm also wondering if it's a little bit strategic. Last year there was this idea that, sure, David Stearns is the president of baseball operations, but Steve Cohen gets what he wants. And so if we just ask Steve Cohen for this and this and this, like a Christmas list, he's gonna speak to the fan inside of himself. and do these emotional moves and re-sign Pete Alonso and bring back like all these players, and like even a guy like Jose Iglesias, who did not end up bringing back, but like stuff like that. I think from my perspective, it seems like Steve Cohen is sending a message that he hired David Stearns for a reason. He hires people. You don't become a billionaire by micromanaging everything and everyone below you. It's just too many pieces in the air. You hire people who are experts in that particular thing. So he is saying at this moment, this is David Stearns' job. He is going to do it. I have given him the keys to the castle. I'm not going to micromanage him. So I'm not going to step in every time and be like, oh, don't you dare like say mean things to my son. This was actually like one of those things. He's empowering him, which is often what good managers do. The problem with not the problem, but the kind of like the risk of now being David Stearns with all this power in your hands is that it is solely up to you to sink or swim. You can't say, well, Steve, you told me to sign this guy and I didn't think it was a good idea, because now it's all him. So if he fails, all the ramifications are also going to fall only on him.
Yeah, that's very true. Looking at first base, how can the Mets replace Alonso? I mean, the run production at that position, I don't even think there's anyone out there in free agency or a trade that can duplicate what Pete Alonso meant to the franchise. And as the old Abbott and Costello comedy skit said, who's on first?
Who's on first, indeed. We were talking about TC at the Queens baseball convention. That is when the Jorge Polanco news came out.
Yes.
And of course, the news was that Jorge Polanco, who famously has played a single game at first base.
Right. I was in the green room, I think, with you and Andy, and all of a sudden the news broke and TC's there, and it's like he played first base, and you said he's only played one game.
He's played one game at first base. So the news comes out and they're like, well, the Mets are targeting him as, a first baseman DH. So of course my mind goes back to, as everyone does, the Moneyball scene. Where it goes like, playing first base is extremely easy. Tell him, Wash, it's incredibly difficult. So I go to Terry, and I'm like, Terry, for my own knowledge, I have obviously never played professional baseball. As easy as everyone thinks it is to just pick up a baseball mitt and be like, hey, guess what? I'm a starting first baseman in like Major League Baseball now. And he goes, no, it is not. And he made a good point. He's like, middle infielders, they could probably do it. The best converted first baseman, that's why they're usually backup catchers, because there are two people on the field, who handle the ball more. You got your pitcher, you got your catcher, you got your first baseman.
Yes.
First baseman can't catch, you got a problem.
Yes.
So we will see how that goes. If the thing with Jorge Polanco is, especially towards the latter years, he wasn't a particularly defensively good middle infielder either. So we have to see, one, if he can catch the ball, two, if he can scoop the ball. You do get a little bit of help now with Marcus Semion's range at second base, because sometimes you would see Pete, and even though Jeff McNeil, may I say, is a defensively superior second baseman, he's 2 or 3 outs above average, he's well above the top in baseball, but Marcus Semien is a different level. He's a Gold Glover. But at times, you would see Pete like kind of bail out and go for balls towards the second base bag when he probably should have stayed closer, and that's what hurt his range, because suddenly he's going for balls that maybe he shouldn't, and the metrics say, hey, that's a bad first baseman. When he just wasn't that mobile. That was not his wheelhouse. His wheelhouse was picking balls off the dirt, because that's where Vientos threw them. So this is where we're gonna have to see how Jorge Polanco does. In conjunction with Marcus Semien, it might be good. He still has to be able to do the extension, the scoops, all this other stuff that doesn't necessarily come naturally. Beyond that, sure, you could play Jeff at first base. Remarkably, for all the trade rumors, it looks like Jeff might have to be one of the last Mets standing, because they have so many holes and he can play them all, just in case. Go for Cody Bellinger. But then again, you also need outfield help. So unless you want to alternate innings where Cody plays first, then
like the third of the team or Yankees.
It essentially is. They got Luke Weaver the other day. I'm like, oh, great. Dreamweaver is going to be playing at Citi Field, which is awesome. And then you have a prospect in Ryan Clifford, they were high on him last year, I have noticed that during the winter meetings and the GM meetings, while David Stearns was extolling the virtues of Carson Benj and how he could win an opening day slot, we are not hearing a whole heck about a lot about Ryan Clifford.
No.
So it might be a little bit longer for him.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, talking about the additions, when we get to the Diaz slot that's opened up, now you have two former Yankees in that slot at the back end of the bullpen. So that's going to be difficult to replace Diaz, and both Devin and the new addition, they were battling back and forth for the closer slot at Yankee Stadium last year and for the New York Yankees. So here you go again with Devin.
Luke Weaver, yeah.
And Luke is like, but you said something, fascinating. It was like, we lost the trumpets, we lost that wonderful entrance theme of Edwin, but Dreamweaver's a pretty cool song, isn't it?
I gotta say, because I covered a lot of Yankees too prior to taking the Mets beat. I would get really hyped up when Dreamweaver was going. Like, that was a really cool entrance song. But it is funny, like, you could logically have like Clay Holmes followed by Luke Weaver followed by Devin Williams, just three Yankee closers in a row. In a perfect world, if a Mets are winning a game, you could have those three pitchers and nobody else, and it's just like, it's the Yankees bullpen.
Yeah, and then and here comes your first baseman, Bellinger.
Yeah, and there goes Cody Bellinger, and I heard like somebody joked, like, they just whenever the Yankees part way with Aaron Boone, he could be the bench coach. If you just have the Yankees.
Yeah. Well, you have the Yankees bench coach, as the Mets manager too. So you have there's so much. It's kind of bizarre if you look at it, but whatever, they have a plan.
Whatever works. I do like the Luke Weaver signing.
Yeah.
I actually think, especially with when AJ Minter comes back, although they do think that that's going to be delayed. I think the loss of AJ Minter was very overplayed last season. So a back end of Luke Weaver, who was not good last year, mostly because it seemed like he was rushed back after injury.
Mm-hmm.
And Devin Williams, whose peripherals indicate that, he just kind of got really, really unlucky and maybe might have even been tipping pitches last year.
Yeah.
And then you have an AJ Minter. Suddenly that back end is not bad.
And you bring Brooks Raley back as well, and if he's healthy, that's an addition as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's not a when you look at the loss of Diaz, how dynamic of a closer is he? How great, the best closer in the game at this point, and it's going to be an interesting 2026. What other moves can we anticipate the rest of this offseason? I mean, there's a lot of holes still to fill. There's still outfield. There's still, run production. I mean, So if you're in David Stearns' seat right now, it's like, what do you do? What do you do? Right.
What do you do? I mean, I think it's going to be hard. I do think you go in pretty heavy on Cody Bellinger. I think that is probably the best fit. The issue with Cody Bellinger is, at this point, everybody wants Cody Bellinger. Because like the Yankees want Cody Bellinger, the Dodgers might want Cody Bellinger. Like, and when you're going up against all these heavy hitters, and I'm very pro player in terms of, I feel like your Major League Baseball career is so short, go get paid. So when I say that Cody Bellinger is getting overpaid, it's not because I don't think he deserves the money or should have the money. I am merely saying that his market is going to be extremely inflated by kind of a bidding war between all these heavy hitters. So if you want Cody Bellinger, because he is a fit for your team, you're going to have to get probably pretty uncomfortable with the amount and the years that you're willing to give him.
Yeah. And he's, and if you look at it, the amount of years, and if they give him 5 years or 6, can you imagine? He's only 6 months younger than Pete was.
Yeah.
So does that make sense at all? I don't know.
With a left-handed bat, I mean, the thing that Bellinger has is his versatility. And
yeah, that's true.
That is the biggest thing. Lefty bat, and which the Mets were already too left-handed to begin with, but they got rid of Nimmo, so you got that going for you. It'll be interesting. Like, you could look at a Kyle Tucker as well, but I don't necessarily know that Kyle Tucker wants to move. And so when we're talking about, like free agent spots, that's more like the thing where I wonder if it's like something that will change people's perception. Not because people are going to say, oh, no, the Mets, they're a Met. No one's going to be saying that. But it's going to be like, well, if two teams are offering me a similar amount of money and one of them wants me to play out of position and the other one wants me to play at the position that I am more comfortable with, maybe in the past it would have been like, but the Mets are a really, really, really good landing spot. This is where I want to be. It used to be like that tiny little thing that puts you over the edge.
Yeah.
And do they have that tiny thing that puts you over the edge anymore?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know. I mean, it's all going to shake out for the rest of this offseason and then going into 2026. Finally, Laura, before we let you go today, I mean, there's a big event coming up in New York, an annual event that you're a big part of this year. The New York Baseball Writers Association of America will hold their annual awards banquet January the 24th in New York City. Pete Alonso is scheduled to be there to get the Joe DiMaggio Toast of the Town Award presented by Darryl Strawberry. And there is a lot of Mets involvement this year. Talk to us about the annual awards banquet and your participation in it this year.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for this. This is my first year as the vice chair of the Baseball Writers Association of America. And it's actually kind of cool because this is the first time in the organization's history of the New York chapter where both the chairman and the vice chairman have been women. And the chair,
Very cool.
Dita, is only the second woman ever. Claire Smith is the first woman to serve as chair. And it is a fantastic award show. In addition to our local awards, which include, I have it up. We have like Jesse Orosco is being
yeah,
honored.
the Casey Stengel You Could Look It Up award goes to Jesse Orozco this year. So that's going to be very cool.
So, yeah. And so we have members of the 86th rotation being there as well. We have Pete Alonso, who no guarantee that he's coming, but for now he is locked in to come. I never want to say like 100% he's going to come, but yes, he's locked in to come with Darryl Strawberry presenting him with Toast of the Town Award. But also, if you're into the other awards, scheduled to be there, again, scheduled, so no guarantees, but Aaron Judge for MVP, Shohei Ohtani is expected to be there, has said he will be there. Paul Skeens is expected to be there. So it's really a fun star-studded event. It's a gala, Midtown Hilton, a lot of your favorite players, and not just the ones getting the awards, not just Rookie of the Year, Cy Young, even though those guys will definitely be there, Manager of the Year, but also their friends and family members and people, members of the baseball community, a lot of scouts, a lot of managers, and it's, I like to call it baseball prom. So
yes,
you get nice and dressed up, you eat some, like filet or whatever else you want, and you enjoy the show. Yeah,
it is kind of a black tie event, but it is open to the fans as well. There's limited availabilities for tickets for fans, but they are available, and we'll let you give the website before we close today. But you're also going to be up there yourself, and you're presenting the Good Guy Award to Clay Holmes. So that's kind of cool.
I am, yeah. That's going to be really fun. So yeah, it's an honor, even though I hate public speaking. But yeah, Clay Holmes it has been given the award that goes to the member of any team in New York that has most helped the media do his job or do his or her job. And Clay has, from his time on the Yankees, I have to give him a shout out here, good or bad. And as a closer, especially, they're going to be bad. He was always in front of his locker, always willing to talk, always willing to explain things, and deeply appreciative that has translated over to Flushing as well.
Yes. Well, give the website for the place where people can check out this year's New York chapter of the Baseball Writers Association of America and where they can get more information on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you'd like tickets or to see what the lineup is in terms of who's coming, you can go to nybbwaa.com. If you scroll toward the bottom of the page, you can see how to get tickets for the event. There is limited seating, but we still do have a few tickets left.
There you go. And of course, you're very active still. You're writing a lot in the off season about the trades and all the activity going on with the New York Mets. And you're also still contributing to SNY's Baseball Night in New York. So fans can find you there. And your podcast is, it's been really cool. I give it a listen every week. And Jeff Francoeur.
Wasn't he good?
Yeah. I mean, you've had really very cool guests, and it is pop culture as you talk about with your podcast partner. And he's a blast. I love listening to him. Your football picks each and every week. And and just kind of like this. And you've had, Buck Showalter, right?
Yeah,
You've
we
had
had
some,
Bob Showalter. Yeah, like I said, Jeff Francoeur was on. We had Jeff Passan. We had
yeah,
Lisa Kuma. Yeah, we've had like Olympians on, and it's always so cool where people are just like, "Sure, I'll chat." And my pitch is always this: like, we're going to talk sports, but we're also going to talk a little bit of nonsense, and
yeah.
it always works out.
So let everybody know where they could find you on social media and where they could find your really cool podcast, which I really enjoy listening to each and every week.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on X at Albanese Laura. You can read all my Mets coverage at newsday.com/Mets. And my podcast is First Time Listener, Long Time Caller, and you can get that on Spotify and Apple Pods.
Very, very cool. So what are your plans for Christmas? I know you're from an Italian family,
Not much, just not much. I am, tis the season to monitor free agency.
there you go. Yeah. Yeah, for us, it's kind of like, well, our family's so much smaller now, but it used to be what they call the seven fishes. I mean, that's an
Mhm.
Italian thing for Christmas Eve. But yeah, you get older and things just change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do remember. I will say one Christmas Eve, I was at a cabin, beautiful, picturesque, upstate, snow falling. Daniel Murphy going to the Nationals. I grabbed my laptop. It was late too.
I had to bring that one up because that was also for me. It was like, how do you do that?
It was late. I must have had at least 2 glasses of wine in me. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, guys.
Oh no. Yeah, that was heartbreaking. Murphy was like the heart and soul of that team in so many ways. Yeah. Let's not get started on that because we could talk another
Sorry.
hour about all the times that this team has got rid of people from Ray Knight and forget it. I'm not even going to get into it.
Sorry.
Laura, I really wish you happy holidays, happy New Year, and we'll see you at the banquet in January. So just have a great rest of the year and best wishes for 2026.
Thanks, and to you as well. Best wishes.
As always, great to have Laura Albanese back with us, and she has such great insight and comes to it in a very conversational, analytical way. Very intelligent baseball conversation always with Laura Albanese. Let's give you an update on our presenting sponsor, Tunnel to Towers. And of course, our friends there at T2T continue their mission to honor those who have given so much to our country, and they work at it 365 days a year. And this year winds down. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation is celebrating its commitment to doing good with its 7th annual Season of Hope. During this month of December, Tunnel to Towers is delivering 50 mortgage-free homes in 24 different states across the U.S. The foundation is paying off the mortgages for Gold Star and Fallen first responder families with young children and building specially adapted smart homes for catastrophically wounded service members and first responders. You can join Tunnel to Towers on their mission by donating $11 a month at t2t.org. And this year alone, the foundation is providing 200 homes for America's greatest heroes. Whether a first responder or service member dies in a line of duty, whenever that happens and leaves behind the young children, Tunnel to Towers is there to pay off their mortgage. The foundation was started after the 9/11 attacks by the family of New York City firefighter Stephen Siller. Stephen raced through the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel on foot to respond to the World Trade Center. He was killed trying to save others. That led his family to start the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, and you can help by going to t2t.org. And next year should be a big one for the Tunnel to Towers Homeless Veterans Program. 5 new veterans villages are scheduled to open, and these facilities are designed to provide permanent housing and comprehensive services for those vets who have struggled to reintegrate into society. Since starting the effort fewer than 3 years ago, the Homeless Veteran Program has more than 17,000 vets. And it's just an unbelievable foundation. Join their mission to do good by donating just $11 a month at t2t.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. And we'll be back with all that coverage from the Queens Baseball Convention after this message from the radio voice of the New York Mets, Howie Rose, on behalf of Tunnel to Towers.
My wife and I are very proud to donate to Tunnel to Towers. It's remarkable to me that in the years since its inception, they've been able to provide so much. The commitment that they've made to not forget and to embrace those who have been affected but are in many cases thriving today because of what Tunnel to Towers has done for them. It's so transcendent of $11 a month.
Terry, so for the second year, we just completed season 2, season 3 coming up next year, but your life as a podcast over the last couple of years, I mean, how different has that been as far as an experience for you to do this?
Well, it's something I didn't think I'd ever do, I can tell you that, but it's been, it's been a lot of fun, John. We get to talk the game that I love with all my heart, and I, been able to reconnect with a lot of my former players. Obviously, get opinions from everybody, but it's been a lot of fun. I love talking baseball, and so for me, it gives us, like you and I are together, to talk about the thing we enjoy most, and that's New York Mets baseball.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And we're joined by Andy Martino. Andy, of course,
Hello, everybody.
Long
time no see.
Is an insider for SNY, and he comes on our show and we do a leadoff segment. And I figured before we bring on our very special guest, who everyone's here to see, before we put everybody's ass in the jackpot, we're going to actually talk about what happened this week with the New York Mets. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there like I am. I don't come from it from an insider basis. I've been a Mets fan since 1966. So I was there when Seaver got traded. I was there with all the changes that have happened. And I've really bled orange and blue most of my life. But this week was pretty traumatic if you're a Mets fan. And I'm sure a lot of people here feel the same way. First, TC, I mean, I know that when we have done the podcast, you've always said Pete Alonso is going to get paid. But this signing of Pete to Baltimore, it wasn't the most surprising thing for you when you're seeing everything play out.
No, I thought certainly anybody who knows baseball and is a baseball fan realizes who Pete's agent is. And so last year when Pete settled for the 2-year deal, that did not set with Scott Boras. Scott Boras gets done what he wants to have happen. And so I think that when Pete didn't get the contract last year, there was some hard feelings, not necessarily on Pete's side, but certainly on Scott's side. So I was not surprised that there was a deal that they settled outside of the New York Mets. And I feel bad. I think the world of Pete. I like him a lot. What he's done for this franchise on and off the field is tremendous. But again, I wish him the best. But we got to move on. We got to find somebody to pick up that slack.
Right. You were saying yesterday that the team didn't win with its current core. So when you don't win and you have all those guys together over all these years, something's got to change. And Andy, I think you would agree that this was the direction the Mets were going.
It was certainly other than, excuse me, as we were talking about BNMY, we touched on this a little bit in our last segment up here. Like the other than Diaz, this was not the direction they went. They would have liked to have had Diaz back. They would have liked to have Pete back for the price. And by the way, they weren't seeking to trade Brandon Nimmo. This all sort of happened one at a time. The Texas Rangers called and were aggressive on Brandon Nimmo. So I think that's a meaningful difference, too, that it wasn't like take a sledgehammer to the core. It was one thing came up after the other. But no, as you said, John, the Mets have had some success, but not the ultimate success, and no one's getting any younger. So they felt it was time to consider all these different things that led to a reset.
Well, everybody thinks that that you can have instant success. If you go out and you bring in a big free agent like Juan Soto, that there's going to be instant success. This game is about pitching. You can tell me all you want. If you cannot get that other team out, you're not going to win in the big leagues. And so when you run through 76 pitchers in 1 year, that's a problem. So I thought the team, everybody says, well, this team didn't win. Well, for 3 of the last 4 years, they look like they're pretty good,
yes.
And so for me, they were very, very close. It was about going out and getting yourself some pitchers. And again, I know I'm an old school guy, but this 4 2/3, 5 1/3 innings, that's got to go. I'm sorry. You cannot win. You cannot win in the big leagues without winning when you start pitching. And so, I talked to Carlos when the season was over. We had a great conversation on the phone, and I told him, I said, I feel so bad for you. You got to manage your bullpen every night for 4 innings. And now all of a sudden you read where he's criticized by his bullpen. They were used too much. Well, hell, what do you think you're going to get? You can't go in the stands and anybody is there an inning out here somewhere? What the hell? That's what you got. So I don't feel bad. I just think they were closer than what everybody gives them credit for. And I know one thing. I know David's got a plan, and I think they're going to be fine.
Can I just interject real quick, John, to say, could we just acknowledge how lucky we all are to have Terry Collins himself?
Absolutely.
And that honest way that Terry has of saying things blunt and to the point is, I was so lucky as a beat writer in my younger years to learn from that every day. So just this isn't just some schmuck up here popping off. This is the longest tenured manager in Mets history. I think that should be remembered.
And the last man to bring him to the World Series.
And the last man to the World Series. Great point.
No, it's been an honor to work with Terry over the last couple of years, and it's exciting to be here once again. And Terry, I know you're close to Brandon too, though. I mean, and that trade was kind of surprising. And players they want to be wanted. And when you have a no trade clause, Brandon built a house in Port St. Lucie, ready to settle down.
By the way, it's going to be for sale here.
Yeah, it is pretty soon.
Looking for a real big house.
But that was kind of a surprise out of it when he agreed to waive that no trade clause. Have you spoken to him at all?
Actually, I was at a golf outing last Sunday. Brandon and his father were there. But, all of the stories about Brandon Nimmo, he made himself a really good player. And I saw him when he was a kid. I didn't think he was ever going to have much power. I thought he was going to be a kind of a big singles guy. He made himself a good player. I mean, I saw a lot of films. I watched a lot of Mets games, and this guy made as good a place as anybody. He took a lot of home runs away. He made a lot of diving catches, and he's such a personable guy. I was shocked by that move. I really was shocked by that move. And, the good offensive players are hard to find, but it also tells you what kind of a person he is. He respects the game so much that they said, hey, look, would you, waive your no trade clause? And he said, look, if you want me to go someplace else, it's going to help the team get better, I'm all for it. That's Brandon Nimmo. You won't find that in a lot of places. They put those no trade clauses in for a reason. These guys want to stay there. And Brandon said, look, if you need me to go someplace else, I'll go someplace else. And that speaks volumes.
And also, to expand on that point even, Terry, players usually charge to waive their no trade clause. That's a piece of leverage in a contract. All right, you want me to waive it? That's going to be a $10 million bonus. So Brandon didn't do any of that either.
Yeah, he's just a special kid. And, again, I'm so excited. He's going to be back with Jake.
Yeah.
So it'll give us somebody in American League we can root for.
There you go. I have one last thing to discuss, and really, Andy and TC, if you want to weigh in on it. But with all the outcry, and of course now we have social media. I remember when Siegel was traded in '77. I remember that summer, and he asked for a trade because of Dick Young was a columnist for the Daily News and wrote things about Seaver's wife being jealous of Nolan Ryan's wife, and M. Donald Grant was playing a little hardball with him. So Seaver asked out. What happened this week was something that I don't think the Mets fan base has ever experienced. Losing, not from Thanksgiving with Nimmo.
3 beloved players in one stretch.
3, and that's hard to take. Do you think that the Mets maybe underestimated the backlash? Because I know we're all on social media here for the most part, and I've never seen such an outcry as what I've seen this week. Is it going to die down? I don't know. But do you think they've been unprepared for maybe the backlash from the fans on this one?
John, honestly, interacting with the Mets people in proximity in the winter meetings, I didn't get that sense, surprise. I got a sense that, we understand, by we, I mean the Mets organization, what they're thinking, like what you're saying. We understand that this is a tough pill to ask our fans to swallow, but we really think this is what's going to make the Mets win more games. Now, the only time will tell if that actually bears out that way, but I think the thing that's not as understood about David Stearns is that this is a guy who literally grew up in Manhattan, Mets fan, because he didn't want anything to do with the Yankees. He thought that was too easy. I want to be a Mets fan. His mom wouldn't let him watch games on school nights, so he had the radio under his covers listening to Bob Murphy and Gary Cohen. And like, this guy's a romantic about the Mets. He understands how you all feel. He just has calculated that the way to get you all, including himself, happiest is by doing these things. Again, I'm not telling you it's going to work or that it's not, but he's not ignoring your all feelings. He's trying to create great memories for all of you, and we will now see what the next couple of years bring.
Got it. Well, we're here for the main event.
That didn't get an applause from the crowd.
No, I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of angry Met fans out there.
But that is my honest answer to your question.
Yeah. I guess we'll see how it plays out, right? And what moves they make, and what else can maybe make this fan base kind of say, okay, things are going to be all right. But I know we're all addicted to the Mets. It's all in our blood. So we're going to go to the ballpark, and we're going to go to spring training, and we're going to watch the team, and hopefully they're going to win. I mean, no matter what players come and go, I mean, for most of us in this room, I'm sure that you live and die with this team, and we're going to continue to do that. So we wish everybody well, the ones that have departed and the new ones that are coming in. But TC, as you said on SNY's Baseball Night in New York, don't count on all those rookies to come in, because, good luck if you're counting on the rookies only.
I told I had a lot of conversations with a lot of people in this audience, and many, many years ago, I had two of the greatest managers in the game, Tommy Lasorda and Jim Leland, told me, he said, young players are great, but they'll get your ass fired. So they better play good.
Exactly.
You don't want to bring in too many of them at once.
Exactly right.
Right. Well, let's move on to the main event here. On May 28th, 2016, during a game between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the New York Mets, one of the most iconic arguments between a major league manager and umpire took place, and it all stemmed from the playoffs when Dodgers chased Utley Slide injured Mets infielder Ruben Tejada in the 2015 playoffs. And that led the following year on this day to Noah Syndergaard's ejection for throwing at Utley. And Terry, you kind of came to your defense of your pitcher immediately. And then our guest is going to...
I didn't know whether to go to him first, go to Noah first for not hitting him, or go to Tom.
Yeah, well, that was a big swing and a miss on Noah's part for sure. And now, that argument was something that has now been watched millions and millions of times on social media, across YouTube and everywhere else. With our guest Tom Hallion's line, "Our asses in the jackpot," now becoming iconic. In this segment, I'm going to turn it over to Andy Martino, but let's welcome Tom Hallion, former MLB umpire, part of one of the most iconic arguments in the history of baseball. Tom, welcome.
Thank you.
Well, John, I think that's our cue to watch the iconic argument and to apologize to anybody who's under the age of, earmuffs.
40.
Yeah.
You're done. No, I mean, you can't do that. You're not in that situation, man. You can't. That ain't gonna happen. I mean, I knew you were gonna say that, but that ain't gonna happen. I mean, that's the wrong time to do it. That's all. I'm telling you. It is what it is, but that ain't gonna happen. Our asses in the jackpot. We don't do something there. I'm just telling you that.
But shouldn't there be a warning?
No. I mean, okay, the situation of what happened and everything else, that's what dictates that, okay?
But there was no prior knowledge that before the game started. I mean, if Harry comes into the dugout and says, hey, if somebody gets hit, then that's...
Neil, everybody knows what the situation is, okay? Take him. Terry. Get a hand. Let's go. Come on. Talk to me. Talk to me.
Tommy, that's fucking bullshit.
Then you talk to me about it.
Okay. You gotta give us a shot.
You know what?
You gotta give us a shot,
Okay, listen to me. Let me hear what I'm saying, okay? You get your shot. You had your shot right there. In the situation.
Well, why not?
You know the situation, Terry.
Why don't we get a shot, Tommy?
Because that makes it worse. Terry, that makes
makes it fucking worse. My God, but MLB did nothing to that guy. Nothing.
Okay, that I can't control that, Terry. I can't control that. You know as well as I do Terry, you know where I stand on the whole fucking situation. But that's
You're better than that, Tommy. You know that.
Terry, listen, I'm telling you, our ass is in the jackpot now. Okay, I'm just telling you. You know what? That's you got it. Okay, get it. You got everything out.
I bet you really happy you came now.
Well, as we could all see there, and it's my pleasure to lead a conversation with these distinguished baseball men here. Tom handled himself with a lot of class in that one too. And Terry, this is why we love Terry, because he can. And I used to say this as a beat writer when maybe someone would criticize you for this or that move and be like, "This guy's one of us." Do y'all remember when he sprayed champagne on the crowd in Cincinnati after they clinched the division in 15? That's because you're one of them, and so that's what you all saw. But let's talk about that. There's a lot to unpack from that moment that we just saw. The first thing that's in my mind, this is from both of you. Tom first, if you don't mind. Just as you're watching that now, all these years later, what's going through your mind as you're seeing yourself in that interaction? Normally, you're just in it. You don't get to watch a video. What are you thinking as you watch that now?
Well, it was pretty new because nothing like that was ever shown, or you would get a video of it. So I was very nervous when I was told that it's out there on the internet, and I thought, oh shit, what did I say? What am I going to get in trouble for? So with that being said, watching it now, it's, I don't know about you all, but it's pretty neat. It's pretty awesome. I was fortunate to have a guy here who I have always had the utmost respect on the field with. Now being retired, and we go through this together now sometimes. It's nice now also to know him as a person and a friend. So that part has been great. It was, if you want my opinion, it was like real baseball. This is the shit that you hear on the field. This is really what goes on. Now, you never really hear what is being said, but it happens. Terry, I knew Terry was mad. I knew exactly what was going on. So I just wanted him to vent out, get it out. And I was trying to protect my AAA umpire who had the home plate, and he threw no out. So I went in to kind of get Terry off of Adam and just let him yell at me. And we had a pretty good conversation.
I thought
So you're watching it, Terry. What are you thinking?
when I see this,
Yeah, when you see this.
well, when it first broke, and Tom, this is the one thing that Tom and I talked about. Everybody has to understand. I wasn't mad at him.
Right.
I was not mad at Tom. I was a little upset about the home plate umpire, but I was upset about the guy who was in the batter's box. That's the guy that I was the most upset about. And I've known Tom for a long time, and I understand he just did it. But when I first saw it, I was embarrassed because I got honestly tell you, I got grandkids. I did not know he had a mic on him.
Yeah.
Or I would not have said some of the things I said because when the game starts, if there's a mic, you kind of know, hey, look, this guy's mic. I gotta make sure I don't get carried away. Well, I got carried away. So, but when this thing broke, I wanted to know how to get a hold of him. I called Major League Baseball, asked for an apology, and they said we don't know how it got out. And then when Tom and I have had conversations about it, which I'll have him tell you about, this thing shouldn't have been out.
Right.
4 years later. So Tom, tell them what the rules should be.
So we had, the Umpires Union had a contract with Fox that on their game of the week, which this was, they would mic usually the home plate umpire, but the home plate umpire was a AAA umpire, and the union was not putting a microphone on the AAA umpire, so I had it at first base. But as soon as the game is over, the audio and the video must be destroyed. Well, somebody was thinking ahead.
Not destroyed.
Somebody was thinking ahead and held this for 4 years before letting it out. Both Terry called Major League Baseball. I called the union and Major League Baseball. To this day, we still do not know who let the video out, which is kind of amazing.
It is amazing that hasn't got out. So can we back up a little, guys? Like, that's the backstory of the video itself. When you talk about, you got to give us a shot. Like, for the uninitiated, what are the unwritten rules here? Or were the game is changing and perhaps changing this way? We all know what Utley did to Tejada. So what is in the old school baseball, like, unwritten rules? What are the Mets? What's the shot? What are you supposed to be able to get there?
Well, I'm just going to tell you, again, rules have changed, and Tom will get into it in a minute. But my first year managing in the major leagues, I was managing in Houston, and we had a bench clearing fight with the Cincinnati Reds, and guys were being ejected, and so the crew chief was named John McSherry. John was 6'4", 340 pounds, great. And so he's in the process of writing down names on a piece of paper that he's going to eject. So I walked up as the manager of the Astros and said, "Who are you kicking out? Who on my team are you getting kicked out?" And he never looked up from his paper, but he said, "You got one shot. You hit the first guy in the batter's box, and I'm going to put an end to this." That's where it came from.
Right. And Tom, this is how the game was sort of informally policed for a long time, right?
Well, that's exactly that's old school.
Yeah.
It was handled by the guys on the field. And what happened was Major League Baseball started to want to get their hands involved with that and try to stop the fighting.
Yeah.
And in that time frame. So there was directives out to us, like at spring training and everything. They wanted us to be more aggressive with ejecting and stopping the incident then. So I will tell you this, I'm old school, and Terry had his shot. And I don't know if anybody picked it up, but I told him, you had your shot.
Yeah.
It was just that Noah missed him by 16.
Well, so this is one thing I wanted to ask you, Terry. So, Tom, I was going to ask you both. You just answered the question. The Mets had their shot, in your view. Noah just missed. Is that the shot? I know you were mad. You got to give us our shot, but now that you're out of the moment, did you get the shot and geez, no, he just should have.
Well, we did, but I didn't think he should be kicked out for it.
Right. Oh, because you got to give us the shot.
We had the
Yes,
shot.
gotcha.
We missed him. Well, why are you kicking the guy out?
Right.
I mean, that was my whole thing with the home plate umpire. And
Gotcha.
I said, why don't you warn us? Send a warning out there. But and Tom, I'm sure there's no doubt, and he can answer this. Since there's going to be an umpire with a microphone, and they picked the crew chief who's going to be at first base, because there's no doubt in my mind they knew something was going to happen.
Yeah.
Is that true or not?
I'm going to have to disagree with you.
Okay.
I had to take the microphone only because Adam couldn't wear the microphone.
Okay.
But I will say this: in the old days, believe me, I was not involved, but I was there for a couple fights on the baseball field, and usually how it worked was if the Mets hit Utley, he's going to run to first base, and it's going to be over. Most of the time, you get the instances where, well, the Dodgers are pissed now. They're going to come back and they're going to hit somebody on Terry's team the next inning. And that's where it blows up. And that's really what baseball was kind of instructing us to do, is to take more control of the game. And that's, there's a couple of things that go into it. It was the fact that Utley broke Tejada's
His leg. Yeah.
It was the fact that he only got a 1-game suspension. It was the fact that he really never served that suspension. So, there's still a lot of shit going on. And, now, I if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of reveal a little bit about our Friday night managers meeting at home plate. All right? Mm-hmm. So Terry comes out, and Dodgers have a new manager, Dave Roberts. It's his first year managing the Dodgers. And so Terry is, says, "Hey, Dave, congratulations, da da da." And there's something that said, I wish I could remember exactly how it went, but it was like, "Hey, Terry, I hope that's over. I wasn't even involved with the team last year, and I hope that you guys aren't going to do anything." Well, that was the first sign that something's going to happen.
And what did Terry say?
No, Terry played it cool. He just said, well, it was wrong. They I really don't agree with Major League Baseball, and off they left. And my partner, Phil Cuzzy, says to me, he goes, that was the kiss of death. And that's what happened.
So then or you sense, obviously, you guys doing this a long time, you know that something's probably going to happen. So, Tom, when Noah sends that ball wherever he was intending to send it, and then the ejection happens, are you immediately thinking, oh, here we go? And did you know how this was going to escalate with the argument and the whole thing?
No, I had no idea. When you watch the film, I was pretty calm on the mound with Noah and Neil Walker.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, we'll just try to talk our way out of this one. And then I heard, if you noticed, the reason why I turned around and looked back home was because I heard the crowd go nuts. Mm-hmm. And that's when Terry started getting, I don't know if you were ejected then or you started to get a little more animated with Adam. And I just said, take, I was telling Phil, take Noah on the mound, and I'm going, and that's when I just wanted to get in between Terry and Adam, and I said, okay, now, just sometimes, you got to have instincts sometimes, and, just my instincts said, do it this way, and, and I just started trying to pull Terry down from the cliff. And try to make it a manageable situation, which I think I did that, and I think Terry made his point. I don't know if you watch the video, you'll see Terry says, baseball do a fucking thing to him, and then I say that kind of stops me, and I go, "Oh, Terry, you know how I feel about that. Mm-hmm. There's nothing I can do," mm-hmm. And I agreed with him. It's not. I didn't say that to him, but I did agree with them that baseball was very, very, very lenient on Chase, and that's part of the game that we can't control.
Tom, and that you were you did give Terry, and at one point when Terry said a very nasty word, you go, okay, did you get it all out, Terry? But you didn't fire back, and there are times when we see umpires get really hot, but it seems to me that the vast majority of the time umpires are really good at, this guy's in your face. Like a human reaction is to maybe get mad back, and you let him have his say. Is that something that's challenging to hold your own temper when someone's yelling at you? Not just Terry, but generally speaking, been in, I'm sure, a million arguments with managers over the years. Is it part of your job as you see it to really try to stay calm and composed when the manager isn't?
Absolutely. Yeah, if I think about this, we got a manager going nuts, yelling, calling me everything, and then I say, the hell with this, I'm going to call him, and then I'm putting gasoline on a fire, and you know what happens then.
Right.
So, yeah, you always try to. Doesn't always happen, but you try.
Well, you're a human being.
Cool. Yeah.
So we're winding back to the beginning of that, too. You were talking, Tom, about you're talking to Neil Walker and Noah and the infielders there for a few minutes. Crowd goes crazy. All of a sudden, we hear Terry. And that might be my favorite part of the video is I'm not going to sit here and say the word up here, but Terry did it at the stadium, and it's just like, and here we go, we're off. A missing part of that video, Terry, is what you were doing. It's just not filmed. What you were doing when Tom was talking to Noah and Neil and the infielders. So how does that start for you? You come out of the dugout, go straight to the AAA ump, right? And then does he eject you right away, or what's happening for those 30 seconds?
Yeah, it didn't take long. But first of all, when I first went out there, now this goes back to 2016 or 2015. In game 5 in Los Angeles, after Chase had already broke Tejada's leg. In game 5, if you guys remember, I put Noah in the bullpen. So, and he said to me on his way to the bullpen before the game starts, he said, "Hey Skip, if you want me to hit anybody, let me know." And I said, "Not tonight. Let's just win tonight's game. We'll worry about this at another time." So I knew that in his mind, and again, guys, there's a lot of things that go on in the clubhouse before a game that I'm not aware of. And there might have been one of the position players. It could have been Murph. It could have been David. It could have been anybody that maybe went to Noah and said, "You got to get up tonight." Baseball players have great memories. Great memories. We don't forget what happened last year or 2 years ago, and this was really outside of a pinch hit, and for the first time we got to see Chase.
Yeah.
And so that's stuff, and I didn't know what he was going to do. I really did. I really thought he was just going to, like Tom said. And if you guys ever watched much of Chase Utley, if Noah hit him with a 102-mile-an-hour fastball in the middle of the bat, he'd have flipped the bat and went to first base because he knew it was coming too.
So that's obviously, you guys are baseball fans. Like that's what Noah was supposed to do, is hit him in the side, hit him in the back, and Chase would take it because he's old school too. So did you ever ask Noah, like, why'd you throw it over there?
5 minutes later,
Yeah.
after I was walking off the field,
What did he say?
I walked in. I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I tried to hit him." I said, "You missed him by 6 feet. Leave a mark. Put a bruise on him." And
So wait a minute. I assumed that he was like he did with Alcides Escobar in the World Series, that he was throwing above his head to scare him.
that's all he wanted.
Was he trying to hit him and he missed, or he was
No,
trying?
no. He just wanted to send a message to the Royals that, hey, we're still here. That was kind of, but that's what happens, as Tom said. But with this that was the case, I was just shocked. And again, I didn't know what was going to happen. We have a young umpire behind home plate. I don't even know if he's aware of what happened in 2015. So to kick him out of the game on that particular pitch, that's what, obviously, as I told him, I said, there's, 47,000 people here that came to see you tonight and not Noah Syndergaard.
Yeah.
For heaven's sake. So,
Yeah. Did you, as a quick aside, and then we got to ask Tom the big question about that famous phrase, of course, but when you got kicked out of a game, did you manage a little from the tunnel, or did your bench coach and pitching coach really take over?
Of course you do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty funny. It's always amazing, and these guys know what goes on. In Citi Field, if you get in the dugout, there's some steps that go back down into a little area. Then there's steps that go up in the locker room. You're right there. I mean, you're just down in the tunnel.
Yeah.
And you're not very far away. So if you want to make a pitching change, all you got to do is.
Was Bob Guerin that year?
Bob Guerin was there.
So, hey, Bob.
Yeah. Yeah. Just tell somebody, hey, tell Bob to do it, or tell. But you're right there. You're not very far away, and it's not a big issue. It's still done. I mean, Bobby, you guys know Bobby made himself up to come back on the bench. I couldn't do that. I had to bleach my hair. But So I was still there, but it took me a little while to calm down too.
I'll bet. Yeah. So Tom, obviously, I'm sure you've explained this a few times since this video leaked out, but no one wants to leave here without really understanding what an ass in the jackpot is, why you said it, and just the general meaning of that. So if you could, please.
Okay. So I got to tell you this part first. So we're in Seattle. The video breaks, and we're going from Seattle to LA Dodgers for the next series. And we come out, home plate. I'm working third base that night because I had the plate the last night in Seattle. And I see Chase on the railing of the dugout, and I see Kershaw right next to him on the dugout. I'm thinking, what are they going to say to me? Are they going to bust me or what? So anyhow, I start running down third base, and all of a sudden I hear, "What the hell is ass in the jackpot?"
Even they didn't know. There you go.
So I had to explain to them what ass in the jackpot was. I'm originally from New York. Sawgraves, New York, about 100 miles upstate. And we would get done with school and we'd go to our field and play baseball. And sometimes we were winning and sometimes we were losing. And then sometimes we had extra innings. And I would miss dinner. So my mother would send either my sister or my brother over on their bike to let me know my ass was in the jackpot. My mom was bad.
It's from mom.
I got in trouble. It means you're in trouble. You're going to get in trouble, you're in trouble, but you're in trouble. So that's where it came from.
You've been an umpire, Major League umpire since 1985, right?
Yes.
Was that the first time that came out in an argument, or did you just say that a lot?
Absolutely. I don't know how it came out, why it came out, but it came out.
So Terry pushed whatever button Terry pushed, it got Ask the Jackpot out of your memory.
He said it to no on the mound.
That's right. That's right. So when
So it was fresh. By the time I got to Terry, it was fresh in my mind.
and Terry, did you have any time through how angry you are to think, wait a minute, what's an answer in the jackpot? Or that only occurred to
Not
you
at the moment. Not at the moment. A little while later, I did, yeah. And then I heard the explanation. I said, "Well, that makes all the sense."
Yeah.
And what it meant was, I was trying to tell Terry and Noah that if we didn't do something here, the league was gonna fine me, give me a does not meet evaluation. They're gonna do something. So that's what I was explaining, and that's what I should have probably came out and just said that, but I said our ass is in the jackpot.
I think you did it better than that way. And that's the thing. I didn't understand this myself until I heard it not that long ago, actually. But your issues like that, I think, influence whether an umpire gets an assignment like All-Star postseason, right? And those pay extra, and those are prestigious assignments. So if your ass is in the jackpot, you might not be umpiring the World Series one day, right?
Well, I did not work the World Series in 2016.
There you go.
That probably had a little bit to do with it. But then I guess it was 2000 when it came out, all of a sudden the league finally saw it and said, holy shit, Tom, we probably shouldn't have given you the does not meet with that, the way you handled the situation.
Yeah.
So it's funny, it goes around, comes around in baseball, and it all worked out.
Now we're sitting up here and you guys are talking about it and you guys are here into it, I assume, because it was so entertaining and authentic. And it, as you said, Tom, it shows us what actually goes on the baseball field. So I understand that MLB doesn't want players to get hurt, and hit by pitches can do that. But with that and with replay, which is a whole other topic, but it all kind of combines between discipline and relay. We're not seeing as much of those arguments anymore. Do you think that something is lost there, or is like the accuracy and not getting guys hurt, is that a good thing too? Or like, where are you on? Like,
I'm going to be pretty clear about this answer. Yes, we have lost that, and it has changed the game, in certain respects, but that part's gone. You have your arguments now are, basically pitch calls, balls, strikes.
yeah,
Now
that's
they're going to have the challenge, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, Terry, what do you think? As a manager, replay started to come in through the latter part of your manager career. So yeah, your team's gonna get some calls reversed that went against you, but you also don't get to state your case, protect your players, have those moments. Do you prefer the human side of the arguments, or do you just want accuracy?
Well, Bobby Valentine and I have had a lot of discussions about this, and I'm going to tell you where I stand. One of the things about the game of baseball that I've loved is the human interaction.
Yeah.
I loved it. I've known Tom a long time. I have great respect for him. My college roommate was a major league umpire for 25 years. Great respect for him. But that was part of the game that I grew up watching, was that interaction with managers and umpires.
Mm-hmm.
And that's lost now.
Yeah. And
I'm not even sure how, outside of these guys around the field talking to the players one-on-one once in a while, but that's gone. I understand technology is great. I understand the world's turning that way. But next year, you're going to watch a machine called balls and strikes.
Yeah.
And I don't get it. I don't. That human side of the game is missing.
And it's entertaining. And the ABS, I mean, as we know, it's only going to be, I believe, 3 challenges per game per team. So it's not as if the robots are umpiring the whole game. But still, that's like the last thing left for a manager to get hot and argue about is the strike zone.
Yeah.
And now we're sort of taking that away, too. I agree with you. It's entertaining. And some managers have really been able to protect their players, and it helps you in the clubhouse, too.
And I know our fans know this, but, there's a time during a season when things just get stale.
Yeah.
Because we play so many games, so many nights in a row, sometimes it gets stale. The players get stale. And that's when the manager has to stand up and do something to re-energize the team. That can't be, I don't know how that's going to be done today.
And if you lose a call on replay review, you can't go run in Midtown Manhattan and yell at the replay room. So it's like, you see that sometimes where managers, because you guys know, sometimes replays get turned on and you're like, really? And that happens too. and there's nobody to yell at for the poor manager. And Tom, I think it's worth noting too that one thing the replay has shown is that you guys, umpiring world, have always been right a vast majority of the time, and most of your decisions are validated and all that. So the umpires are great, but every once in a while when you're wrong, it is kind of fun to have a little argument about it. I think that's what you're both saying.
Yeah, and when I first came up as an umpire, you were evaluated partly on how you handled situations. Well, situations are arguments or throwing at a batter. Those are the types of things that you were evaluated on. You're not evaluated on that anymore. It's how many pitches did you get wrong?
Yeah.
How many times were you overturned? That's kind of what umpiring has become.
Terry, to your point about firing up your players or mixing things up with that, I've always wondered, watching managers, you always look really angry when you're arguing. What percentage would you say are like, no, I'm really upset, like in that one, versus like, I'm acting a little to try to get my team fired up?
Yeah, more than that. There's only certain situations. I went out one time, and there was another umpire. His name is Jerry Lane, and I had Jerry Lane for 4 years in the minor leagues and then a number of years in the major leagues. And I went out one night, and he said to me before I got started, he goes, "Now, am I going to kick you out before this is over? And if I am, let me know when you've had enough." So I'm arguing with him, and he finally said, "Are you ready to go?" So I said, "Yeah." So then he kicked me out of the game. So, those are things that they did, but they get it. That's the thing people don't understand. These guys know that they know the game.
Of course,
they know what's going on, and they have a feel for it. And I just think that part's missing, and I feel bad for it because that's again how I grew up.
Do umpires and managers know one another on a human level, or do you socialize much, or do you go out after the game for a beer, or is it really two separate worlds?
Probably two separate worlds. They got. I don't think it'd be very in today's world, especially with all the cameras. Can you imagine Tom and I having a game? Yeah. He's got the plate tomorrow. We're having a glass of wine at.
That's a good point.
At Foley's.
Foley's was the one place where you probably all mix them in.
Yeah, there's a little bit of it, but it really, as an umpire, you've got a wall. You don't cross over that wall, and there's plenty of managers and players that I would love to go out and play golf with them, but it just don't.
The professional thing to do is to keep a little bit of a professional distance, basically. So then, how do you get to know guys on the field? How does that go? Do you feel like catchers better? Do you feel like a particular group of managers better? Like, what kind of relationships are you able to make, like in game?
Well, I would say it depends on the manager or it depends on the player.
Do you feel like the catchers?
Yeah, some better than others, but you got to get to know them.
Yeah.
You're going to call 256 pitches. They're not going to agree with you on every pitch, but you got to be able to work through it and say, "Hey, I thought that was a little outside."
I always looked at umpires who were forthright guys. Where you went out to argue and they just say, "Hey, I might have missed it."
Yep.
And then you walk away. I told Tom a story, and I'll just tell the audiences, but there was a major league umpire. How many years was Durwood an umpire? 30 years, 30?
I don't think he got 30, maybe 25.
So there was an umpire in the American League. His name was Durwood Merrill. And Durwood was an umpire a long time. And my college roommate was on that crew, and I'm managing the Anaheim Angels, and we're playing the Texas Rangers. We're tied for first place. We're playing Texas in Anaheim. So there's a play at first base. My first base makes a great play, goes and tags the bag, close play. Durwood calls the guy safe. So I go running out, and as I get close to Durwood, he sticks his hand out. He goes, "Before you get started, you have to understand I'm on the downside of a very mediocre career." And I turn around and went back to the dugout. What are you going to say? What are you going to say to that?
It's showing humility there.
So, and there's a lot of guys. He used to go out and they know. They and you can tell the ones who, "Hey, come on out, listen." And like Tom, in this thing, how he didn't get really, really mad is a testament to his character.
Yeah, the level of self-control there, Tom. We all admire. I don't know how many of us would have had that. So,
All right,
we got a couple minutes left. If anybody has any questions from the crowd.
I can just go up there and bring the microphone to you.
You have questions, and then I'll get to
Look at her, John.
Hey guys, hi Terry. Just wondering, what was the fine for that? How much was it?
I'm trying to figure out if you want to say.
Yeah,
I can tell you what it was. I didn't even see the letter.
That's $2,500. $2,500.
All charitable.
All charitable. Given to charity.
Got a question back here.
Hey guys, thank you so much for coming today. Yeah, I think it's just the human side of it. I thought the best line wasn't asked in the Jackpot. I think it was Terry, talk to me. I get it. Just let it all out. I think that was my favorite line. What is your advice to umpires, managers, and the fans in terms of understanding the dynamic between we're angry at a call? Like, do you have anything to say on that in terms of just the dynamic of it between, because we're up in the stands, we don't have the best view, but we get angry. What's your thoughts on that?
Okay, so I think the first thing is you have to realize we're human beings. And second is I am trying my damnedest to get every pitch or play correct when I'm out on the field. Do you think the last thing I want to hear is Terry coming out and yelling at me, or 47,000 people going, boo? No. So we are trying our best. We do miss them, and it happens, but that's, we're human beings.
And for the record, Tom, no umpire has ever had a preference, I would assume, and you're in game for whether it's the Mets or the Phillies winning or the Yankees and the Red Sox. You're just trying to get it right. Because you do hear from fans like, "Oh, come on, Blue, you fan rooting for the other team or something." I'm sure that is never the case.
One of the things is that our jobs are on the line, right? I mean, Tom just told you, he gets evaluated almost every game, the umpires. So, if he gets a lot of wrong calls, he's going to be doing something else next year. Yeah. And if I don't come out and try to win some games and challenge umpires, I will be doing something else next year. So, and that's the thing, that's the dynamics of it all. And yeah, once in a while, hey, look, you got to go protect your players. Yeah. And there's a lot of times where you'll see a player get in an argument, and the first thing you got to do is get him out, get him out of the way, because you don't want your players ejected.
Right. You got anyone else?
Jack Smart here.
All right, I got a question about Keith and Edwin. So, if they go on to possibly go into the Hall of Fame, what hat are they wearing?
Ooh. It depends how they do with their new teams, I would think.
Well, I will tell you what, Pete will wear a Mets hat.
Yeah.
I don't know what Edwin's going to wear, but because he had a pretty good career in Seattle too. So, but Pete will wear a Mets hat.
All right, got another question here.
This isn't really so much a question. First of all, Tom, I'm a big supporter of UmpScare. But the question I have is, there's a PSA of an umpire, basically they're talking about if you see something, say something. The voice sounds very familiar. Is that you?
That is me.
The voice sounds very familiar. Thank you.
We just
have
have
any more?
a few minutes left up here. If anybody has anything else, got a couple minutes.
Right. So, Tom, if you were behind home plate that night, were you throwing out Noah?
Wow, that's a great question.
All right, I like it.
Yeah.
Yes, I would. I have to tell you, I knew too much about the situation, what had happened, and just what was going on. So I would have. If I was wrong, I was wrong. I was trying to stop the Mets coming up to bat and getting drilled with the pitch.
And because they had their shot, as you said, he just missed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Old school. You let the team have their shot, and then hopefully it's over. But when it doesn't happen that way, that's when your ass is in the jackpot.
Perfectly said, Tom.
All right, got a couple more. Sir, you have one?
My question is, obviously you guys, I think, had a relationship before the incident and have a good relationship now. But you shared with us that the home plate umpire was a minor league umpire rookie. Did you have a conversation with him, Tony? Because you came after him really hard when he started.
I wouldn't call it a conversation.
So there was never anything afterwards. Because I would think him.
You know what?
Listen,
I'm going to tell you what. After 2016, the next to 2017, I didn't have time in the game. So I don't think I ever had Adam again after that.
I don't think
so.
All right, got one more.
I got you.
So knowing that many of the fans will be unhappy with any wrong or bad calls, why does one become an umpire as a
It's like, why does one become a dentist?
It is really easy. It's because you love the game.
John,
And
we got one more
I
there in the
wasn't-
front.
I wasn't good enough to play in the big leagues or play after my high school career, so I found a way to stay in the game by going through the umpire. You gotta remember, I went down to umpire school, never have umpired one game. So that was probably to my advantage because I didn't have bad habits or they had to change. I just went down and paid attention to what the instructors were telling me, and it all worked out.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been my privilege to listen to these guys. I'm sure yours as well. Please, Terry Collins, Tom Hallion.
All right, thank you so much, everybody. It was great to be here.
It was certainly wonderful to be at the QBC, and we were able to bring our creative director, Marsh, with us to capture some video and to mingle with the Met fans and see Terry Collins. So I know Marsh had a great time coming in from Albuquerque. It was really a cool event. There was a lot of hardcore Met fans there, and they were all so passionate, and they were very entertained. So we want to thank Keith, first of all, from the Queens Baseball Convention, and of course Dominic from Coaches Collectibles, who brought in not just Terry Collins, Tom Hallion, but also had Jesse Orozco there and Brett Beatty. So it was a wonderful event, and if you haven't ever attended a QBC, they'll be back in 2026. So just go to queensbaseballconvention.com for more information there, or you can also go to Coaches Collectibles and pick up some unique autographed items by Terry and Tom with those inscriptions, "Ass in the Jackpot," and "You got to give us a shot." And there's so many items at coachescollectiblesnewyork.com, so check it out. We're going to be back and put a bow on 2025 and talk about 2026 right after our Tunnel to Towers Hero of the Week segment, this week featuring Bakersfield police officer Jason White. Let's go to that right now.
On behalf of Tunnel to Towers, we are proud to welcome the White family into their newly renovated, mortgage-free smart home.
We're Jason and Nicole White. Tunnel to Towers it's unbelievable what they're doing for us and for the other families. Our lives changed dramatically in June of 2022. He had 4 strokes and he fell into a coma. We faced rough and scary moments, but we are grateful that Jason continues to improve little by little each day. So we spent a lot of time in rehab hospitals, and he's been going to therapy 4 or 5 days a week. I can't even imagine how things would be right now if we had to handle a mortgage on top of everything else. I wouldn't be able to stay with him like I am and take him to appointments. It's truly life-changing.
On behalf of the men and women of the Bakersfield Police Department, we extend our deepest gratitude to Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
It's beautiful. We love the open, wide hallways. We don't have to actually lift his chair and struggle with it to get him in and out of each room. We love the kitchen. He can actually be in there with us when we're cooking and doing things as a family. We're able to put him in the shower chair and he can shower and use the restroom. All of those daily things that we take for granted sometimes and weren't really able to do in our prior home. I don't know any other organization that ever does anything like this to first responders.
This home, it's a symbol of a nation that chooses to honor our heroes by caring for them and for their families.
Jason, you have given so much of yourself. Today, it is our turn to give something back. Welcome home. You've earned it.
Join us in supporting our nation's heroes and their families now. Go to T2T.org. It only takes $11 a month to make a positive impact.
Now that this year is a wrap, we hope for better things for the New York Mets in 2026. And the big question is, will we be back for a season 3? Well, Terry and I met in New York last weekend, and he has agreed to give us a shot again in 2026. And we're also in discussions to bring in a few new elements to the program next season. So for those of you who enjoy our coverage of Mets baseball, we look forward to returning as well. And remember, you could subscribe to The Terry Collins Show on your favorite podcast platform and our YouTube channel. Just hit subscribe on the platform of your choice. And for those YouTube viewers, our entire archives of the past 2 seasons are available, including full episodes, interviews, highlights from each show you could check out. Just go to youtube.com/The Terry Collins Show. And that's going to wrap up the second season of the program. Special thanks go to Andy Martino and Laura Albanese, who have contributed greatly in our leadoff segments all season long. And thanks to our dear friend Jay Horowitz of the New York Mets for all his help this season, as he does some incredible things. And he's just an amazing guy, Jay Horowitz, and has that great podcast, Conversations with Jay Horowitz. Just find that anywhere you listen to your podcast. I want to send out a special thanks as well to our creative director, Marsh, for all the hard work that he does each and every week. He makes the show look so good if you're watching it on YouTube. And it really is state-of-the-art stuff. So, Marsh, thank you again. And, of course, I like to thank our researcher, Dominic DiBiase, and a special thank you to the star of the show, Terry Collins, who is such a legend and someone you can always count on to shoot straight from the hip. His insights and straight shooting talk is respected not only by the players, but the insiders and the fans. More than he knows. And finally, a very sincere thank you to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation for sponsoring our show for the second season. Without them, there is no show. So we're grateful for their involvement. And as we close it out, we're going to show you some highlights and photos from last week's QBC. For Terry Collins, this is John Arezzi. Thanks for joining us this season. Enjoy the holidays with your family and friends. And to everybody out there, have a blessed and happy new year. We'll see you in 2026.